digitaljamsessions.com.
Hello and welcome to this Digital Jam session. We're coming at you live from Star Wars Celebration 2016 at the Excel Centre here in London. Today we are joined by Stefan and Bart, who are going to explain to you a little bit more about exactly what they do and why they are here, aside from the fact they are also members of the 501st. But I'm going to start with you, Stefan, if you could explain to us exactly who you are and what it is that you do.
Well, I'm chairman of the Belgian prop crew. We built Star Wars replica props ever since about 15 to 17 years. And we got related to Lucasfilm on this way, and we're serving them on all kinds of celebrations and other events, dressing up the show a little bit, giving a color, and giving the public actually the Star Wars feel and touch kind of thing.
What?
Sit in a spaceship, sit in the chest corner of the falcon, things like that.
Okay. And Bart, what do you do exactly?
I am the current commanding officer of the 501st Belgian garrison. I took over from my friend Stefan so that he could concentrate on the props, and I'm concentrating on the costumes. So he builds the stages with the props and I film with people in costumes. And we work together, and in my off hours I am one of his employees and I'm helping him building all the props.
Wonderful, okay. So here at Star Wars Celebration we noticed that there are a couple of different prop items that you guys have supplied for the show, including the StarWars.com live stage, where you have a Millenium Falcon set, and you've got a bit of the seating going on there, and the little chessboard, etc. and so forth. How long did it take you to actually build this item?
Now, for the Falcon set, we took about 5 weeks, last 5 weeks, because we decided kind of late to build it. As soon as we heard that we need a background for interviews and the screenings, we just decided to build a TFA Millennium Falcon set.
Okay, and there's also a raised speeder from the Force Awakens that you've been allowing the public to get up on top of and have photos, etc. And this actually looks like quite a sturdy item.
Oh yeah.
Yeah? What kind of materials were you using in the construction?
Well, if I tell you, I have to kill you. No. We made a deal with Lucasfilm Studios about a year before the movie came to the theaters. So we built a full replica of the bike with plans provided, with all materials provided. So it's absolutely authentic to the original.
With an NDA of like 300 pages provided.
Yeah, something like that. Actually, the material used it's a steel framework because we needed to get it as sturdy as possible because people can access it. You can sit on it, like rate it, so everybody of the public will be able to have a ride on the bike.
Yeah.
And the rest is a wooden framework, it's fiberglass, it's resin parts, it's molded casted parts, 3D printed parts, whatever you can imagine.
It's actually the first prop that comes in one part. It's the first prop we built that comes as a whole as it is.
So
we need
extra construction.
Yeah. Okay. All the other ones are all paneling that are put together, but this one comes in one piece.
Okay.
So it's we had to make it as sturdy as it is, and that's why it ended up in one piece, so people can sit on it. So.
Okay. So when we talk about the construction of these types of items, I know that Stefan was mentioning earlier that there are different types of construction. One might call it old school and the traditional method. But there are obviously a lot of people who are interested in using new technology to facilitate building these types of items, or even printing these types of items with 3D printers. And I'm curious from your perspective, not that you would utilize 3D printers to completely create the item, but you might use a 3D printer to perhaps facilitate parts or elements of the construction that you can't otherwise obtain. How would you go about normally utilizing a 3D printer?
Well, in first hand, like you said, it's practically impossible or not payable to afford it to print an entire prop. It would work, but it's too big and it's too expensive. So what we do, we actually do research on prop parts that most of the time come from the 70s. There are trash metal parts, machine parts, parts from airplanes, and we have 3D designers who actually recreate the part. We measure up everything, we create a CAD print file, and then we print the parts, put them together, and so we get details as authentic as possible.
So, obviously when you're utilising this new type of technology, it's not just the 3D printing that people might consider utilising in these kind of constructions, but there are also other types of technology that people might be interested in. whether that's in terms of alternative fabrics, alternative resins, or alternative plastics that they might be utilising. Have you considered any of these types of methods or procedures?
We're definitely using them for years.
Uh-huh.
So it starts, like you said, with the old school stuff,
Yeah.
which means the wooden construction,
Yeah.
plywood, it's wooden beams, steel construction, welded stuff. But in the late time, like with the bike from Ray, we actually made molds and we shaped parts from styrofoam, like the nose section, which is a huge part, and then we made a concrete mold, which weighed about 200 kilos. It was a huge part.
Wow.
And then we use actually fiberglass resin in layers to form the parts, sand them up, and really recreating the part absolutely on scale. Because, to be honest, the bike, by example, there is a difference of 5 millimeters between the original one and ours.
Okay. So I hear that there is also a slightly secret little thing going on inside your bike. Might be a certain signature from somebody of interest?
Yeah, well, when we did the unveiling at Celebration Anaheim last year, we all had to keep it a secret up until then. And before we could actually unveil it to the general public, director J.J. Abrams came by, and he literally gave a seal of approval. He looked at the bike, he looked it all over, we discussed it, he was talking with Stefan, and then afterwards he said, okay, you guys can show this to the general public, and I will even sign it on the inside. So there's a signature of him on the inside.
Has it felt to be approved by JJ?
Yes. We have to continue somewhere, because the last approvals on former celebrations came from nobody else than George Lucas himself.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had him twice in Orlando visiting the sets. The first time he got the Grand Tour, and the second time he came over and he said, I heard that you have new stuff, and I was quite curious. And I was bold enough to ask him, would you mind to sign it for approval? So he actually did. And he actually also gave our prop crew a special name. It was the first time when he signed our AT-AT Walker, which is standing right up front the stage here. He actually signed it, and he actually mentioned the sentence like, "May the force not be with you, you imperial dogs."
Ooh.
Signed George Lucas. So ever since we're calling ourselves the Imperial Dogs.
Yeah, we took that to, back in those days, we took it to 501st Command, and we said, henceforth we will be known as the Imperial Dogs. And they said, says who? And we had a picture. Says the maker.
So, aside from Star Wars memorabilia and Star Wars props and sets that you create, what other major franchises have you been involved with creating items from, or would this be something that you'd be open to?
Yeah, once in a while you need vacation, you know?
Yeah.
And if we get bored by Star Wars, which actually never happens, then of course we have members of our club who are interested in other licenses.
Yeah.
So we created Full-Scale Stargate.
Yep.
And last year, two years ago, we had created the gate from Jurassic World.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
With a couple of interactive dinosaurs.
Animatronic dinos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big gate.
It's a big gate, yes, and it has a lot of success because it's also interactive. People can walk through, can walk around the dinosaurs, having pictures. Because that's the major issue for building props. We started to build them to give the opportunity to all other fans, because we are also fans. It's a hobby to share Star Wars with the world. Which means when we are on a convention, normally our sets are on the show floor, and people can sit in it, taking pictures, feeling like they are in the set, part of the set, and this is an amazing souvenir. And with all the hard work building that, for us it's the pleasure when the fans coming on amazed and they show their how grateful they are that they can have this experience. And we even found a term for that. We call it soul money. You know, we don't earn money with that. It's a hobby. We're a non-profit organization. It's all on voluntary base, all the workers, and it takes hours, thousands of hours to build that. And whenever a fan, a small kid or even a big kid, comes over smiling from one ear to the other and say, "Thank you for sharing that with me," that feels so good. That is so worth all the work, all the hours. You don't need money. You just need that smile.
That's outstanding. And so,
A perfect perfect example of what Steph is explaining. Last year I got a Christmas card from somebody I met at Celebration. I never knew the person before. We got to talking, and he sent me a Christmas card with his family in front of our set. So they used the picture they took in front of our set as their Christmas card to their entire family. And he sent me one. I've met the guy here for like 15 minutes. That's what Steph calls soul money and appreciation. And that's
all we need.
That's all we need. Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about the fact that obviously Stefan is building the sets, but you, Bart, you're creating the people, the costumes and the people that go into these sets.
So is Stefan.
Okay, but when you're creating these outfits, there's obviously quite a lot of attention to detail that goes into these. How much direct impact or a direct conversation do you have with people like Lucasfilm about the detail of some of these costumes?
Well, the costumes themselves, being part of the 501st Legion, I mean, as you may or may not know, the 501st Legion has been the standard in costuming over the past 15, 17 years, I think they are around now. And Lucasfilm and Disney and all the other companies know that if they need screen accurate costumes, they will talk either to the Rebel Legion, depending on alliances, or to the 501st Legion, and they know that these guys deliver.
So I'm gonna assume for one moment in time that our listeners are not necessarily people who understand what the 501st is. So I'm gonna ask you to explain, for the benefit of our listeners who don't know, because I'm sure there are some of them, exactly what the 501st and the Rebel Legion is.
Well, the 501st Legion is basically a global organization that prides themselves in making screen-accurate costumes. In the case of the 501st, of all the villains and the evil people from the movie, and in the case of the Rebel Legion, all the good guys. And they primarily use those costumes for charity work, for sport events where they have a big Star Wars representation. The Rose Parade, for example. Stefan was one of the lucky members to be walking in the Rose Parade beside George Lucas. The 501st does that. So at one point, Lucasfilm said, okay, we need 500 stormtroopers. Let's just call these guys. And they delivered. And we do, I think last year the 501st gathered something about $28.5 million in charity. So these guys have, as they said, bad guys doing good, or stormtroopers with a heart. So that's the main reason the 501st exists. Yes, the costumes is fun. Yes, the celebrations and getting together and talking about stuff and prop making and costume making is fun. But at the end of the day, what matters most for us is the smile on that kid's face when he walks into a platoon of stormtroopers and he gets carried on their soul onto their hands. That's what makes us the group that we are today. And I think I can speak for all of the 501st members globally. This is why we do it. We do it to make people that love Star Wars as much as we do, to make them happy. That's why we do it.
Okay. So when you're collaborating as either the 501st or the Rebel Legion, do you tend to find that there are other groups that want to engage with you as well? Or is it kind of just you guys are doing your own thing and you don't really want to interact with those other smaller groups?
No, I think if you look at it, yesterday they had the photo shoot here outside at the Excel Center. If you look at it, the 501st is very open-minded and open-hearted to other people. I mean, of course, we pride ourselves on doing costumes that are true to the saga. But if somebody would come by in a stormtrooper costume that is maybe not up to point as ours are, we are not going to shun him for it. Au contraire, we might even help him, and we might even guide him into the proper direction of making a screen-accurate costume like we do. We do not, not everybody can invest loads of money or loads of time into a screen-accurate costume, but we are there to help them. We are very approachable for that. People can ask us for directions, can ask us for help. We will actually arrange that.
Okay. So given that we're at Star Wars Celebration here in London, I'm curious to understand from both of you, if you had a choice or an option of anything within the Star Wars universe that isn't yet on the screen, that hasn't yet been brought to life on the screen, that you could create or that you could, bring to life, what would that thing be?
If you were talking about building, then there are a couple actually. Like, every Star Wars fan is addicted to Boba Fett. He's probably the most loved side character from Star Wars. So, what are you gonna build? A Slave 1. Which would be one? A Slave 1 full scale would be very amazing. It's huge. So it's almost passing the limits of the possibilities for a non-official or a non-professional organization like we are. But still, it's possible, and I know that a couple of friends of mine, which we cooperate with, we have plans, secret plans. But I can't tell you more because I have to kill you if I tell you.
Okay, so we got the first in here. All right. What about you, Bart? What would be the thing you'd want to create? A costume, so.
For a costume, I don't think there's any specific custom, but if I could talk out of a personal standpoint, I'm too small for Darth Vader. I would love myself an admiral costume or something like that, or none of those rebel costumes ever. I will never go rebel, never. Although I love them backstage, but no. But I will not go for a rebel costume. I think an officer, an admiral, or.
And there's no specific evil character that you think you would
maybe one of the Death Trooper from the Rogue One trail that we saw. That one is high on my list, but I haven't even gotten a chance to go and check them out here on the floor due to our schedule being so full. But that's maybe one of the costumes in the future that might pique my interest a little bit more. Once I know how they come out in the movie, because well, they need to be shown on their good side. Of course, they're Imperial, so.
Well, guys, as always, we like to give our listeners a way to be able to find out a little bit more about what you're up to, and that we do by asking you to share with us your social media handle of choice. What would be your social media handle of choice?
We use actually everything. So, social media in global, Facebook is a very easy tool to use, but we also work on blogs, on websites, platforms. But I think at this moment, to share with the world, Facebook is a bad thing to do.
Okay, and what's the name on Facebook they should be looking for?
We have a couple of Facebook pages. We have from the Belgian Garrison, 501st Legion, we have a Facebook page, and from the Belgian Custom Division, BCD, VZW, VZW,
BCD, VZ, so the Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Victor, Zulu, Whiskey.
We also have Facebook pages, so everyone in the world is invited to look up. If you look up Belgian Star Wars props on Google, you will find us.
Okay, we'll make sure to include that in the podcast notes. But thank you for joining us today. And thank you for listening. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to subscribe and review. And follow us on Twitter at Digital Jam Ltd.
digitaljamsessions.com